It'll be good to see him. And we're live. And welcome.
There you go. Fine.
Hey everyone, welcome to SVT time. New day today. Well, every day is a new day, obviously, but new day for SVT time. Now on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays. So, welcome. Dino Monoxylus here. My co-host Dom is with us, and joining us all the way from across the pond from Manchester, UK, a very, very special guest. Jack Bates is joining us today from Smashing Pumpkins and The Light.
Hello.
Jack, how you doing, man?
I'm not bad. How are you? I believe it's your birthday, so happy birthday.
Yeah. Special birthday edition of SVT time.
Yeah, special birthday edition. I think I have an SVT coming pretty soon. Actually, I just realized I have to put my computer on Do Not Disturb because I know I will be getting some pings here in the meantime. But everybody's happy, everybody's healthy, kind of doing their thing. Dom,
all
you doing
good? All good, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I leave everything on. I never take anything off Do Not Disturb. That's why I'm happy and healthy.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Seriously. Yeah, I always forget to do it. And like, in fact, I know my food alarm's going to go off here in about half hour. So, anyways, Jack, everything cool, man? It's
all good. It's been a weird time here for just like for you guys, I'm guessing. But it feels like we're sort of getting back out into some form of normality now, which is nice. So everything's good.
Yeah, you've been in, going on 2 years now, sort of a holding pattern, if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah, I mean, 2020, I think, was going to be like the most busy year a lot of us had for a while, and then it just all got shut down. So we're still waiting to play some of those shows from 2020 2 years later. So,
right.
So but it feels like now we were supposed to play some shows last month that got postponed, and I feel like they were probably the last ones that are going to get postponed. It feels like everything now, because we've got a couple of months now until we start up again in April.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like everything else, touch wood, might be all right from this point.
Yeah. Now, when you say shoot with Pumpkins or with your dad?
April for me is when I start again with Pumpkins. We're playing some festivals in America.
Okay.
Which will be fun. We actually played 4 or 5 months ago. We did a couple of festivals, and that was amazing just to sort of get back to it, even though it was only the 2 shows, just to sort of feel a bit normal again, standing on a stage and playing a show. It was really nice. And then, but then coming off stage, you're like, oh, when's the next one going to be? And then it turns out it's going to be in April. So it's only around the corner, really, just a couple more months.
Yeah, it really is. I know.
That's great. Is UK opening up, or is it all kind of opened up now? Or
we're pretty much all the way. Yeah, we were in lockdown for a long time, like late 2020 into early 2021. It was just like months and months and months of everything closed and nothing to do, and it was pretty rough. But now it feels like everything's open. I mean, some people agree with the way that they're opening things up. Some people don't. But from my point of view, it is nice just to be getting back to some sense of normal again after so long.
Yeah.
I think LA is kind of the last stand on the all mask mandates, and I feel like I just saw somewhere where next week it's going to open up. So I feel like that's kind of like the last stronghold to get through.
It feels like we're in the last wave. I don't know about for you guys, but here it feels like we're sort of in the last wave.
Well, let's put it this way. It seems like, it seems like I don't want to say it's being mentioned less and less on the news, but it's not. It's like it's kind of an afterthought in the headlines now. Like, oh, by the way, at least here in New Hampshire,
right?
It's like, oh, by the way, COVID cases are on a decline, and it's not the main headline anymore.
Yeah,
but isn't it in the States? There's quite a big disparity between how each state has sort of done, isn't there? So
huge disparity. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it all depends on the state.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, like it all depends on the town too.
Mm-hmm.
My wife works for the school system here in our town, which has a mask mandate in the schools, but then the town adjacent to us doesn't have a mask mandate in schools. So it's kind of like
it's a bit like that here, to be honest, because although the UK is one country, obviously it's made up of 4 countries: Scotland, Wales, England, Northern Ireland, and all 4 of them have had, different rules at different points. And people living in North Wales were crossing the border into England just so they could go and have a drink in the pub, and then getting pulled over on the way home. I think they tried to keep it sort of uniform, but then
I was going to say, and everybody's going up to Scotland to have a drink now.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So it's been a bit weird, but yeah, I think pretty much on the whole now everything's getting back to normal, which is nice.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like, if it's any indication, like some of the other guests we've had on here, they've talked about, COVID protocols backstage, and I'm sure that will still remain in effect for a while too. Obviously, everybody still needs to be safe while on the road.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be tough, really, because I think here at the moment, you still have to, if you're a contact, you still have to isolate. So it sort of feels like if one person on the tour goes down, the whole tour could go down. So my friend Martin, who plays keyboards with me and Peter Hook and the Light, he's actually filling in with Echo and the Bunnymen at the moment, playing keys on their UK tour. And I think they're in a really sort of strict sort of COVID guideline bubble type situation, just to try and make sure they can do the dates and keep the show on the road.
Yeah. Hey, look at we were watching the Winter Olympics last night. Look at I forget the kid's name that he can't compete because he tested positive. And that's just horrible.
That's rough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's for athletes like that, especially, and with the Summer Olympics last year, it's like if you miss that, you got to wait 4 years. It's like you might not even be in your prime of your sort of chosen sport at that point. So it's brutal for them.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get out of talking about
all I've done for the last 2 and a bit years is talk about COVID.
So, Jack, Phil, give us a little bit of background here. So, born in the UK.
Yes.
I'm assuming you were born in the UK, right?
Yeah, in Manchester, yeah, where I still live.
But obviously you were brought up in a very musical family. I'm assuming your dad is a prominent bass player, Peter Hook, obviously. What was that like growing up with your dad, like this famous rock star bass player?
I mean, I think it took a little while for me to sort of realize what was going on. The strangest thing for me was growing up, New Order split up in 1993. So I'd have been 3 or 4 at that point. Okay. And then, so I don't remember anything from that period. The period that I remember of him when I was young was in his side project band called Monaco. And they played big gigs, but, like clubs and theaters. And I started going to shows. And then sort of around 98, 99 was when New Order got back together. And then it was like, all of a sudden he's playing in these gigantic arenas. And it was like, okay, this is weird.
Right.
And then once I got old enough, sort of 10, 11, 12, and I wasn't tiny anymore, I just wanted to go to all the gigs that I could. So from, most of the time, if there was a UK tour, I'd be sitting on the side of the stage, or certainly in Manchester. And then when I got a little bit older still, sort of 16, 17, I'd go on the European tours and stuff. So I was always around, and it was good. It was great. And, obviously with a load of guitars lying around the house, it was like, all right, let's pick it up and see if I can do anything.
Yeah.
Did you start on bass?
Yeah.
That's cool.
You started right out on bass, huh?
Yeah, I only play a very, very limited amount of guitar. Okay. So I'm very much purely a bass player.
That's cool. I mean, it's, for me, and I would assume for a lot of people that, that don't have fathers that were prominent bass players, it's like, it's kind of the opposite. Like you grew up, he was your dad first, or I should say he still is your dad. Like he's my dad. And then I discover that he's a rock star versus, like I would meet your dad and meet him as Peter Hook, the rock star. And then eventually like, oh yeah, he's a normal person too, obviously. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you kind of had the reverse that everybody else does, which is like I said, that's why I had to ask. Like, what's it like growing up? You know, when your dad's a famous bass player or a famous musician.
No, it's been great. I mean, we have a really good relationship, and obviously for the last 10 years, as well as being dad, he's been my bandmate. So we have a really close friendship as well as, you know, family relationship. So it's nice that we did I was around at his house yesterday. We did a 10-mile bike ride together.
Nice.
Which is cool, and got incredibly muddy. So, you know, even though we do all the band stuff, we still do normal things that father and son would do. It's nice to do those things and not have to talk about music all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, like, I mean, I worked for my father for a number of years in a trucking company. So it's like you're being brought up in the family business now too. So, you know, how's that dynamic? Father and son and musician and musician, you know?
Honestly, I mean, it's been great overall, but there are times where you butt heads because you're so similar, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Are there any times where you've been like, all right, Dad, come on, like you're not cutting it, like that part's not cutting it, or like
all the time? He doesn't like to practice. So I think a lot of the time, if he's saying, I want to play this song that I've not played for 30 years or whatever, the expectation at this point is that I will go away and learn all the parts.
Yeah.
And then show him what to play. And then he'll go like, oh, but I didn't play it like that. I played it in a different way. And I'm like, well, all right, but you know, I'm trying my best. You show me then. So but it's funny because a lot of we're not really Joy Division songs, but a lot of New Order songs have got multiple bass lines going through the songs. So there are a lot of parts to work out, and then the first thing to do is figure out who's going to play what and then how you play it.
Yeah.
So rehearsals can be a bit long sometimes, and we do butt heads a few times, but nothing major.
Yeah. I was going to ask, because so you guys, a lot of the songs that you're playing, you guys are both playing bass, but different parts. Because your dad, I mean, I got to be honest, I was really only exposed to your dad's style and playing like a number of years ago.
Right.
And the more I look at his playing, it's definitely unique, more melodic and chordal than just the typical roots and fifth type player.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever been a typical bass player.
Which, I mean, he's a musician's musician. He uses the instrument to convey what's up here versus, like I think of a bass when I pick up a bass, I'm thinking like a bass player. Like I have to support this role in the band as a bass player. Whereas I think your dad's ideas are just like, man, that's amazing that he thought of that line or that progression or using that type of an effect on a bass.
I think go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, how does that, how do you fit into that role between being a bass player for the Smashing Pumpkins versus working with your dad?
Well, I mean, although the bands are totally different, sonically, a lot of the bass playing is quite similar, really. Certainly in the earlier Pumpkin stuff, because Billy said to me a number of times that, for all the Gish songs of the Pumpkins' first album, he was trying to play like my dad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite interesting how it all sort of comes full circle. And but it's funny because I think with my dad, he's not your typical musician. I don't think he would even describe himself as a musician, really. He can't read music. He doesn't know anything about scales or music theory or anything. And I think that is the main reason why he ended up doing his own thing, because he didn't know what the rules were, or the rules of
right.
So he just made his own rules and did whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And it obviously ended up being something that was, groundbreaking and different than nobody ever done before. And one of the main reasons for why he ended up playing like that was because his gear was so bad in the late 70s that the rest of the band could only hear him if he played high up the neck. And that ended up being his gimmick.
Wow.
Interesting.
So it's kind of by accident, really.
Yeah. Huh.
So back then he didn't have an SVT, right?
No, definitely not.
Just curious of that.
Well, yeah, His sound is great now. He's got the SVTs. But it wasn't great in 1976 or whatever we're talking here.
Yeah. And you mentioned SVT, Dom. I mean, you and your dad came on as Ampeg artists probably in the last couple of years.
Yeah, officially, I think pretty recently. Yeah.
But you were Yamaha artists long before that too. So there's kind of that relationship between the Yamaha and Ampeg relationship as well,
Yeah. It's interesting now that it's all ended up sort of under the same umbrella. Now my dad and me, when we're touring as Peter Hook and the Light, we've got all Ampeg, we've got all Yamaha, and we've now got Line 6 on our pedal board. So it's all in house.
That's right too. Yeah, that's cool. So now, are you? I know Dad's using the V4s. You're using V4s too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, in his band, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're great. We love them. I mean, I won't say what we had before because I don't want to slag anyone off. But I wasn't really a fan of what we were using previously, and I was saying for years, that we need to get something different, and we could sound better. And when that relationship started with Ampeg, that was what really made that happen for me. Anyway, I think we sound a lot better now than we did a few years ago, which is positive.
I'm just going to nod my head and agree. You do sound a lot better. Now, so let's go back to the Pumpkins here. So, how long have you been bass for the Smashing Pumpkins?
Live since 2015.
Okay,
that was the first tour. Yeah.
Okay. Now you're recording with Billy as well?
No, just live.
Just live. Okay.
Billy writes all the bass parts himself for the records.
I was going to say, do you have any input on how the bass lines come out, or is that all Billy?
No, it's all Billy. And then whenever there's new songs to learn, I'll do my best to learn them. And then the great thing about it is if there's a problem, I can just ask him, hey, how did you play this?
Right.
Yeah.
So it actually works out quite well.
Yeah. Is there any time it's like, the old joke, you can always tell when a guitar player is playing bass. Is there ever any time where it's like,
that's a great question. You're playing, you're like, this is not a good bass part.
You're not going to question the boss. You know what I mean? Or at least question his artistic input on how a certain bass line should sound. But do you ever kind of go, hey, Billy, can we talk about this a little bit?
It's funny because really I'm in that same situation with both bands because, Billy wrote the majority of those bass parts and then my dad wrote all his bass parts and I've got to play them in front of those guys.
Yeah.
You can rest assured that if you're doing it wrong, they'll tell you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Growing up, like, you heard your dad all the time, obviously, and learned a lot from him. Like, what other bass players did you really gravitate towards growing up?
One of my favorites is Eric Avery from Jane's Addiction. When I got into those first two records, that was just like, incredible. Just hearing something, again, completely different, someone who has their own style. And all those albums to me are just totally bass driven. Mm-hmm. Songs like 3 Days and Mountain Song and all those bass lines are amazing. He's definitely one of my favorites. And it was quite interesting because when I met him, he told me that his favorite is my dad. So again, it's like another full circle moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I like a lot of those sort of 90s rock bands just because of my age, really. So Lou Barlow's another bass player that I really like from Dinosaur Jr. Carlos D from Interpol as well. I'm a big fan. Obviously, I don't think he even plays anymore, which is sad, really. But I mean, he seems happy with his new career as an actor, so that's totally cool. You got to respect it. But I do miss his bass lines in that band.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, those are all killer bands.
Do you listen to I don't know what's been going on, but like obviously, bass players on Facebook and YouTube and all the internet players is what I call them. But it just seems like within the last couple of months, almost, like my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed is exploding with all these, like, and when I say young players, like, not even teenagers.
Yeah.
And they're smoking us.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching, like you said, it's all on Instagram, isn't it? I was watching one the other day, and this young girl, she must have been like 8 or 9, and she was just like tearing up this bass, like tapping and everything. And it was just incredible. And I was just thinking, like, wow, I cannot play like that.
Right.
I don't know what that means for me, but if you tell me to play that, what I'd just seen, I'd have no chance.
Well, that I mean, and fortunately, that's what they're doing is amazing, and it fits the scene. But as well as I do, if you brought that into either one of your full-time gigs, you'd get the kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole get paid by the note.
Gives me that look whenever he is something that's not his. What are you playing?
Does he ever ask you for tips? Like, hey, how did you play that? Or what are you playing there? Or how do I get this certain sound?
Sometimes. I mean, it's interesting because when he started Peter Hook and the Light in 2010, he started playing songs that he'd never played before, because some Joy Division songs never got played before the end of the band, and some that he'd not played for 30 plus years or whatever. And then I was watching him trying to play him, and he's playing them, and like he's obviously trying to figure out how he did it back in the day. And maybe back in the day, he played it in the not so easiest way. So he's trying to go back to just how he did it back then.
Sure.
And I'm thinking like, Dad, it's actually way easier if you just play it like this. And he's like, oh, okay. But that feels like a cop out, it's like.
Yeah.
So it can be quite interesting sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Now you started playing with them in the Light when you were 20 years old? Am I right about that?
Yeah, 2010. Yeah, May 2010 was our first gig.
Okay.
And then it was only ever meant to be one gig, and it became 2 nights for this at one venue, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. And it's sort of like 5 or 6 weeks later, we were playing massive festivals and doing an Australian tour and all this crazy stuff that just came out of nowhere. And then 11 years or 12 years now later, the band still exists. And
wow,
I think he's playing something like 100 shows this year.
Wow.
I'll be probably on for about half of them, and then someone will be filling in for me on the ones where I'm away with the Pumpkins. But he's certainly going to be really busy, which is nice.
That's cool. And now that gig eventually that led you to the gig with the Smashing Pumpkins, because Billy sat in with your dad one night, and if I remember reading.
It's quite a long story, really, but I mean, Billy actually was a touring member of New Order in 2001.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for like a 6 to 9 month period, because obviously the Smashing Pumpkins had finished in 2000. And I'm not sure, will this have been before Zwan or after Zwan? I'm not sure. But he obviously had like a gap in the schedule, and he's a big fan of New Order. And he knew my dad and Bernard from touring and years on the road and stuff. And he actually did join as a touring member. So that would actually be the first time I met Billy, but I would only been about 12 or 13, so I didn't really understand who he was. Or, it was only when I got a bit older, I'm like, oh my God, that's that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the sort of beginning of their relationship. And then when we started playing in 2010, the first 2 or 3 times that we played in Chicago, my dad would say, like, why don't we get in touch with Billy, see if he'll come down and do some tunes with us. And he has done most times we've played in Chicago, which is always a really cool moment at the Metro usually. And then so that was the second time meeting him, but the first time sort of meeting him properly as someone who's not just a kid. And then from there ended up getting asked to do that first tour in 2015, and then ever since, really. I think I've done about 150 gigs with him now, which is, it seems crazy, but yeah, it's really cool. And I was obviously a massive fan before I ever played with him, so it really is like dream come true sort of level stuff to be playing with him.
That's cool. Now, did you ever think, Tom, I'm sorry I'm hogging all the questions here.
No, man. You're rolling along. It's your birthday. Do whatever you want.
It's my birthday. I can do whatever I want. Did you ever think like that first gig that you did with your dad? Like, did you have ambitions to become a full-time musician? Because there's an interesting fact that I'm going to bring up here. Now, I don't know if this was were you originally going to school for something else?
I was in university full time, doing my degree in modern foreign languages, and then just sort of, as I said before, we thought these gigs would just be one-offs, and
Yeah.
And it's just like Dad was like, "Yeah, you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then just think, "Yeah, we're going back to uni," and then it all changed.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't end up finishing my degree. I left, as Dad said, I left to join the circus. My mum at the time, my mum was not happy about.
I can imagine.
There were a few arguments, but at this point, I would say I got no regrets from.
Yeah, right. But you are now. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're fluent in French, Spanish, Italian, but you also study Portuguese and is it Catalan?
Yeah. So I did French and Spanish to a pretty high, and Italian to a pretty high level at college.
Okay.
And then, when I went off to uni, I carried on with Spanish and took on Portuguese.
Okay.
And then also as like a side thing was doing Catalan, which is a dialect of Spanish that they speak in Catalonia, where Barcelona is in Spain.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it was, but I think I was taking a little bit too much on. Like I found Portuguese to be a lot more difficult than the other languages that I'd done, just because although it kind of looks the same written down, sonically it's like totally different.
Yeah.
I was struggling a bit with Portuguese and thinking I should have just carried on with French and took the easy way. But yeah, it was all getting a bit too much, and then right around that point, it was like, oh, could be another sort of career path coming up here. So it all kind of just fell into place, really.
And you were studying all these languages at the same time?
Yeah.
Wow,
that's crazy.
I know. They got to study your brain, man. I don't know how you do that.
You know what? I don't even know why it happened, but it was just what I was good at from school. Yeah. I mean, here, I'm guessing it's still the same. I mean, I left school like 15, 16 years ago, but you have to do French, and then you sort of get the choice to do more as you get older. And so I went to Spanish next, and then Italian, and then it just felt like, well, I'm good at them, so I'm going to be good at another one, and then it didn't work out like that.
I'm still trying to figure out English at this point.
Well, exactly, yeah. But I mean,
there's English and there's New England English.
Yeah, there's New England English.
Your own dialect. But it's funny because at one point I would say, yeah, totally fluent in all those languages, but then over time it sort of goes a bit rusty.
Yeah.
But if you plunk me in the middle of Spain, I could certainly get by, which is cool. Fun because people really, and through touring as well, you meet a lot of people that you can speak to, and people really like it when you sort of make the effort to speak their language. Yes. And it opens a lot of doors that maybe otherwise you wouldn't be able to communicate with these people. So it's good to have it in sort of in your back pocket.
Yeah. No, it's
like the band interpreter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, when you're on tour, I'm sure that people are like,
yeah.
Say.
There's been a lot of times over the last 12 years in various sort of immigration halls and baggage claims where someone's not going through or something's not showing up, and my dad's just like, you go over there and sort it out. So yeah, a lot of those times it's like, you just speak to this guy on the phone and tell him what it is, this bit of backline that we're missing. I'm like, oh my god, okay, here we go.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna put this up here.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I had a question too after that.
Rich is right now. Rich is also a fellow Bostonian here, so we can
nice
interview. Yeah,
that's the New England English there.
Yeah, we put syllables where they're not supposed to be, and not supposed to be, and yeah. Does
anybody? I was gonna say, yeah. Does anybody else in your family, are they musical as well, like your mom or
nobody? I think my little sister showed a bit of an interest in bass when she was little, and I remember my dad buying her a Daisy Rock bass, you know, one of those like
I remember those. Yeah.
flower or something.
Yeah.
And but she got very bored with it very quickly. But
there it
is. Speaking of that bass, it was hilarious because the last time we practiced before COVID, all of our gear was out, and the only bass that my dad's had around that he could use was this pink Daisy Rock flower. So it was absolutely hilarious that in the final rehearsal before what we thought was going to be a big tour,
you don't have any photos of that
Daisy Rock bass. I do somewhere. I've got to.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It would have shattered his bass hero image if somebody was to leak those photos.
Yeah,
I was going to say you could probably ransom those photos. You know, black
photos.
Exactly. That's awesome. Oh man. So let's talk about gear a little bit. Well, we've been kind of talking about gear all along, but your main Yamaha bass is it a 735 active PJ or 734? Excuse me.
734A, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I use the most at the moment, which is sort of the newest active basses that Yamaha put out. I guess it would have been 3 or 4 years of maybe.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you prefer active electronics over passive, Jack?
Well, certainly for playing with my dad, just because the tone that you're trying to get is so bright, and you wouldn't be able to get the right sound unless you're on active. I mean, I play exactly the same guitars in the Pumpkins, but on passive.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
It's testament to the bass itself, really, that you can get such wildly different sounds out for different bands out of the same equipment, really.
Yeah.
So, but if that's why my dad's never liked, like Fender P bass or jazz bass, because you just can't get the right level of sort of brightness and treble out of those. So being active is what you need really to sound like him.
Yeah. That makes sense. And obviously, I know with your dad, you're using quite a few pedals.
Probably no chorus pedals, right? None of those.
Loads of chorus pedals. Yeah. we were just talking about it yesterday, actually, because we were looking sort of in the room where all the gear is, and he's got his stash of Electro Harmonix Clone Theory pedals. He's got must have 13, 14 of them.
Oh, wow.
I say to him, like, well, but how many actually work though? Because he breaks them so often. And we thought we tested them, and there's like 3 or 4 that work. So we've sent the others off to get fixed. Because now that there are actual shows happening, we need to get working again. So
yeah, I was always curious. I'm such a chorus guy, and I was always curious if you guys like ran through like a bunch of different ones over the years, always changed the flavor of it, or it's like always just the staple.
Well, I mean, his mindset is like he doesn't really like to change things that often, and if something worked for him in 1979, there's no reason why it won't work in 2022. But the thing is, using old gear, it can be difficult because sometimes these pedals can be a bit temperamental, just because they don't lend themselves well. I know 40 years old to being thrown around the back of a van and shit like that. So we're always trying to find, other stuff that we can use as well, just, on the off chance that the main ones break down. And actually on his board at the moment is the Ampeg Liquifier chorus.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
That's what he's been using in practice.
Has he been enjoying that?
Yeah, he loves it. Yeah. I think it's sort of the closest we've found so far that comes to the original old school ones that would be his sort of number one.
Oh, cool.
So you're on the board.
We're on the board. We made it to the board, Dom.
Exactly.
We're on the board.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Do you have a Liquifier on your board as well?
I do, yeah.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, because if you don't, I think I know where we can get you one.
I'm just going to show everyone
what
this looks like real quick.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
And I very much recommend it. They sound great.
Now, you were saying the old Electro Harmonix Clone Theory, the original ones, not the reissue that EH.
Yeah, the original ones. Yeah, the ones that are like as big as your head.
Exactly. The new ones are like they're almost like a micro pedal. They're small.
Yeah.
I have one here on my shelf that
Yeah, the old ones are about 3 times the size, and they have their own. You don't use like a 9-volt power to connect them. They have their own actual power supply.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we've got a few. And obviously because when you're touring in America when you go from 240 volts to 110, you need to have American clones too. So he's got a stash of American ones as well.
Right too. Yeah.
And you know what? They do actually sound different as well. I'm guessing probably just a voltage thing.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly the UK ones are a lot brighter, even still. So
interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, I remember. It back now with with modern boards, everybody has their power brick or their power supply that But my guitar player, we were talking the other day, and it's like the original power block was literally just a power strip Velcro to the top of your board with all these wall warts plugged into it for your open pedals. Sometimes that's just how you got to go.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, he's quite hard to get him to use, try out new things because he's just relies so much on his old stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't say much about it. But at the moment, we're working on some sort of new, what may become a sort of Peter Hook pedal. So
cool.
Hopefully, in the future, there'll be maybe this year there'll be some news on that for people who want to get something that he's sort of had an input in getting the right sound out of it as well. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, I mean, if you look anything you listen to, I mean that is a prominent part of his sound too. So
yeah, totally. And I was saying to him, not long ago, you've got the signature strings now, you've got the signature bass, now you need the pedal.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully this year will be the year where that happens. But as you know with these things, it can take a while to dial it in and get it right. And we'll actually be trying something out tomorrow at practice. So
cool.
Hopefully you'll like it.
Very cool. I gotta say, like, now do you use his signature bass on anything as well?
I have been recently, yeah. I think he asked Yamaha for a few of them when it came out, just purely again because he breaks things so often. At the end of a show, he'll literally like take his guitar off and just throw it on the floor, and I'm like, so he asked for a few of them, and then I was very lucky. One of them he gave to me, so I do have one, and I have been using it for. We started up again in sort of July last year, which was when things started being reopened, and I think between sort of July and the end of the year, we did like 15 to 20 shows. Nothing, no massive tours, but enough to sort of test out new stuff like that, and it was great. It's a really, really, really good bass. Yamaha did a really good job on it, and he had a lot of input into it as well. It wasn't just it's not just something they've given him and put his name on. He did have a lot to do with sort of how it sounds and how it looks. So, and he was really happy to get a signature bass. It's one of those things where when he's played Yamaha for 40 odd years, and then to finally get that sort of here's your own Yamaha, it was quite a moment for him.
And I gotta say, like, out of all the signature basses that Yamaha has done, and I mean they're all great. Billy's bass is great. Maybe Nathan's too. I was gonna say is probably the most accessible for players that play a bunch of different styles. And when they did the Peter Hook bass, I had a lot of like fellow bass players come out because of the reverse P. Like on the old BB 300s, those were just a reverse P, passive, volume, tone, and Yamaha stopped doing that for a while. And when the Peter Hook bass came out, it was like, oh man, Yamaha's doing a reverse P again, and it's active, And I remember like they were all sold out by the time I could even like think of buying one. It's like, do we have any left? They're like, no, they're all gone.
I think another run is needed if anyone's watching from Yamaha.
There you go. So very cool.
But now, they're really nice basses, I must say, and Yamaha did a great job. They look nice and they play really well. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to take mine out with me in April for the Pumpkins gigs and see if I can use it for that too. So we'll see happens.
Yeah. Now, are you playing 5-string at all, or is it you strictly 4 strings?
Strictly 4 strings. I do have a 5-string bass, but I've never used it live.
Okay.
I'm not
more for a look thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys they don't want to.
I just wanted one just to see what it was like, because up until another, like 2 or 3 years ago, I'd never played one. And I was like, all right, let's try it. Let's get one. And it's not really my thing, to be honest.
Yeah. But you do have a multi-string, like more than the 4-string. What's the bass that you're playing that has octave strings?
Yeah, so that's the Shergold Marathon 6-string bass,
Okay.
which is Shergold was an old British company in the sort of would have been late 70s, early 80s that made a lot of weird guitars. And I guess somehow in sort of 1979, my dad got hold of this 6-string, and that's been his sort of main 6-string bass ever since. Because if you pick up, any New Order album, probably it's kind of 50-50 really done on a 4-string and a 6-string. So it would have been his Yamaha BB1200S, which was his classic active Yamaha from the 80s. Okay. And then the Shergold Marathon 6. So we've got a few of those too, because they're really hard to find. They're really rare. And when they come up, they go for a lot of money. Oh. So he tries to buy them up whenever he sees them on eBay. And then recently he partnered up with Eastwood Guitars to make like essentially a clone of the Shergold, because Shergold doesn't exist. I mean, it does exist as a company, but I don't think they make basses anymore. I think it's just guitars. Okay. I think somebody new sort of took over the name, and the new stuff they make isn't like the old stuff. So the idea that Eastwood had was, since nobody can get hold of these 6-strings, let's copy it essentially and put one out. So that the Hooky Bass 6 Pro from Eastwood is the 6-string that he now plays instead of his Shergolds live. So that's the ultimate cool approval from the man himself.
Nice.
Now, are you playing an Eastwood, or are you playing an original Shergold?
I am up until recently. I was playing my Shergold because I was playing ones that were actually my dad's, and I was thinking like, I really want to get my own, and it took years to find one that was mine. And then once I got it, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to play now. So I do have the Eastwood, and it's great. But at the moment, I'm still sort of buzzing off my own Shergold, which I managed to find was in perfect condition. This lovely guy sold it to me in Salisbury, which is down south somewhere in England, and I love it. It's great.
Cool. And then you can upcharge your dad if he needs another one.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Yes. Now you can borrow mine. That's what exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's cool using dad's gear and him having all this stuff that I can just use, but it is nice to sort of buy your own and go, all right, this is my guitar now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
I was saying, like, any specific overdrives or fuzz or anything distortion wise that you have to use specifically for Pumpkins?
No pedals for Pumpkins, nothing.
Wow.
I don't use anything. We literally just plug the bass straight into the amp, and that's it.
That's amazing.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's funny because before I got the gig, I was sort of, doing a lot of research and looking about like gear rundowns, the rig rundowns that previous bass players had done. I'm thinking like, all right, I'm going to need to get this, and I'm going to need to get this. And I took some stuff out with me and didn't end up using any of it.
Wow. So when you're digging in, like, because I mean, there's some stuff that's like got some serious overdrive to it. Like, is it just the amp then that's doing enough?
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow. We need no more testament to our amps ever.
That's it. That's it. Right? It's. I mean, the way I see it, I totally agree as well. Like, why, if it sounds good without the pedals, then why mess with it? So
yeah.
I'm sure at some point when different songs get added to the set list and stuff, there'll be a time where it's like, oh, a bit of chorus would sound good there, or a bit of overdrive, a bit of, So I'm not saying I never will, but at the moment, I've never used any pedals playing live with them.
Huh. Yeah. No, and I remember, when I had asked you early, I wasn't sure if that was your decision to satisfy the role as the bass player, or if that was an actual Billy call, like no pedals on the bass or anything like that.
No, just just sort of totally natural thing. I took pedals out and then just didn't end up needing them really. That was the at the first tour that I did, and then since then we've just not messed with it.
Yeah. And less things to go wrong in your signal chain, as they say too, if you don't need it.
Yes, exactly. And the techs are quite happy for you to have less stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, Jack, do you have any? Did you take lessons as a bass player when you were younger?
No, not at all.
You self-taught or dad taught or a little?
A lot of people assume that my dad will have taught me how to play, but I'm totally self-taught.
Cool.
I mean, at the time, because he was saying to me at the time, which is quite hilarious, really. He's like, I can't teach you because then you'll just sound like me. And then obviously my job for the last 12 years has been so maybe but then he just then he says like, oh, but then you'll just pick up all my bad habits. So I'm like, probably don't want those.
That is too fun. Well, I mean, I have two daughters, and I remember when they were younger, it's like, Dad, can you teach me guitar? It's like, and I gave them a couple of lessons, but it was like, no, we're gonna send you, if you want to take guitar lessons, I'm sending you to somebody that I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I know they're good. Obviously, they're a good teacher, but no, I'm not teaching you because I know there's going to be that, at the dinner time before your lesson. Did you practice? You didn't practice? Shame,
Yeah. No food for you.
No food for you. I'm not sure what kind of teacher my dad would have been. So. I mean, it's hard enough. One thing I do know is that it's hard teaching him his own stuff when we get to play these songs again after 35 years. So
yeah,
I've actually become the teacher now, which is quite interesting.
That is, I mean, you live with it every day, but I got to tell you, that is such a cool dynamic, man. And I know I don't have to tell you this, but enjoy it because like I said, I'm sure it's trying at times because it's like a father-son relationship. But at other times, like I said, my dad was an old truck driver. Like we grew up listening to Greek music on Sundays. That was my musical upbringing. So I had
That's awesome. I love it.
I had to fight for every rhythm and blues album we had playing on the turntable Sunday mornings.
Brilliant.
So too funny. So I'm looking at some of the questions here. I'm seeing and guys, for everybody that's watching, please, if you have questions for Jack, or please, type them in the comments and we'll post them too. We want you guys to be a part of this as well. But man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been awesome having you on.
Yeah, man. No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us. And like I said, hopefully we'll get my dad on for you soon. That
would be cool. That'd be cool. Yeah. If he wants to come on. And
he's a really hard person to pin down because he's always got so much going on. But I'm sure we'll be able to get him on.
Well, is he a football fan?
Not as much as me.
Okay.
But he is a Manchester United fan like me. Yeah.
All right. I was going to say that we'll have to start talking football, and I'm surprised I even said football. Obviously we call it soccer.
I was proud. I was very proud.
Because Dave Murphy, I don't even know what Dave's title is right now, but shipping manager, logistics manager,
right,
from Ireland. He threatened me with my life if I ever called it soccer to his face at any point. So
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it is. I do find it weird when you're in America. It's like, are you watching the soccer game? I'm like, what? Oh.
This is a good question from Chris. What's been the toughest Pumpkins track to learn?
Oh wow. Tough one. Some of them have been real tests. I would say one I struggled with at first was Shiva off the Gish album. Just playing it right was difficult. There were times where I thought I was there, but then when you play it, when you're playing it along with Jimmy on the drums, and you realize like, okay, I'm playing that bit wrong. I need to work on that bit, work on this part. So that was a tough one. Geek USA was pretty tough as well. We did that on the 2015 tour, I think. and I struggled with a few of them at first, but then all of a sudden there's like a moment where it just clicks, and then you've got it. Some of them that happens sooner than others, but yeah, those two were definitely two ones that were tough at first, especially because I'd never really played songs that fast and that kind of style before, and trying to keep up with Jimmy was tough at first, but we got there in the end.
Yeah,
that's cool. Any like horror stories from the road of like something gone terribly wrong during a gig, or like had to like
not yet.
That's great.
Yes, certainly with the Pumpkins, everything's gone well so far, and I've had no fuck ups yet. We'll excuse my French.
No, that's all right.
There's been a few though with my dad's band, just because a lot of the places where we tour with my dad, we sort of do it by the skin of our teeth. Sort of, we're not arena level, and we've not got the biggest promoter or whatever. So we sort of fly down to places like Chile and Argentina and try and make it work, and sometimes it doesn't. And we've had a few sort of scares in South America where we've had to pull gigs just because, the venue wasn't up to it, or something's gone wrong, or they've not got the right backline, because we hire gear with my dad. So you never really know what's going to happen until you get there. But nothing major. I think in sort of 12 years, something like 700 gigs, I think we've only had to pull 2. So that's not a bad hit rate.
No,
definitely not.
Pretty good, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Dino.
No, you go.
Keep interrupting you, man. It's your birthday. Go ahead.
You go.
I was just wondering, have you built like different relationships with other bandmates of the Pumpkins? Like, do you feel like you just are kind of coming in and more of a hired gun thing, or is like, do you feel like part of the band now?
No, I feel totally. Ever since day one, they made me feel really welcome and made everything really easy. And obviously, I'm really good friends with Jeff Schroeder, the guitar player now. And we've got a group WhatsApp with a couple of other people, including Scott from Yamaha, and we're always in there every day talking to each other, even when there's no shows. So everyone just feels like a big sort of family now. Obviously, like I've got family in my other band, but then Pumpkins feels like one big family now too. So it's nice.
That's really cool.
Even like with James Ehar as well. I only met him at the first rehearsal for the 2018 tour when he came back to the band. I'd never met him before, and now I'm really good friends with him too. So it's been great to get to know everybody.
That's cool.
That's awesome. I remember I was working on the Helix stuff before Ampeg. I was like the lead QA, and occasionally I get calls from artists that needed something. And I remember one day I was like in a fit, like just doing a million different things, and I get a call from Jeff, and he's just like, "Hey man, I just like to," and I was like, "Wait, who is this?" Oh, and I was just like teenager me was like, oh my gosh, like freaking out.
Yeah,
it was awesome. But I love that band so much. Love the
I was
sound
say,
that they've kept. Yeah,
Billy's obviously a perfectionist.
Yeah,
I mean that. So I don't want to ask, is he tough to work for? But him being a perfectionist, like is he? Does he relay that onto the musicians as well, or is he fairly laid back when it comes to you guys?
No, I mean we have such a great time even at rehearsals. The mood is always the vibe, and the mood is always really relaxed. But at the same time, if I'm doing something wrong or playing something wrong, the best thing is he'll tell me, and that's the only way you can get it right the next time, make it better.
Yep.
So,
I guess that's basically the way I want it. Like, is it pretty loose at rehearsals, or sometimes you work for really nice guys that are perfectionists, and when you get into that situation, that perfectionist can be tough to work for too, even though they are really nice guys.
Yeah, no, honestly, we have a really good time just hanging out at practice. It doesn't. Most of the times at practice, it doesn't feel like practice. It just feels like you're just hanging around playing some songs with your mates, really. Which is
cool.
Nice.
That's great.
That's cool. And that's what it's supposed to be like.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you want, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. So what dates do you have so far on the books with both Peter Hook and the Light and the Pumpkins coming up? And obviously,
so this year I'm going to be trying to juggle both as best as I can. So at the moment, my next show is at the end of April with the Pumpkins. We've got four festivals, I think, so far in the States.
Okay.
The first one's in Memphis. It's a Beale Street Music Festival. And then we've got Welcome to Rockville in Florida, which is a mental lineup. Just like every massive rock band you can think of is playing that one. What are the other ones? There's one just outside Chicago called Summer Camp, which will be cool because obviously Pumpkins being a Chicago band, their hometown area gigs are always special. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember what the fourth one is. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But there's 4 festivals in for sort of April, May time. And then after that run is over, I'll be flying home pretty much straight away to carry on doing my dad's shows till the end of the year, really. So whatever happens, I'm hopefully going to be busy, COVID permitting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. My dad's got an American tour in August/September. So if you guys want to come, just let me know.
Love to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a good question. What was the first practice with Jimmy Chamberlin like?
Nerve-wracking at first. It was interesting because when I signed up to do that first tour, initially Jimmy wasn't part of the band at that point, and I was under the impression that I was going to be playing with a different drummer. And sort of 2 or 3 days before I flew out, I got the email from Jeff that like, "Oh, Jimmy's coming back." Like, wow, you know, he's obviously one of the greatest ever. And so it was quite nerve-wracking at first to think, am I going to be able to hang with this guy in a rhythm section? You know, it was quite like, I don't know, very nerve-wracking. But then as soon as we started playing and I met him and got to know him, he's like, you know, he's so laid back and easygoing.
Yeah.
He was going out of his way to help me, you know, it wasn't just like leaving me on my own to figure out what to do. It was like, you know, let's try it like this. Let's try it like this.
That's cool.
You know? So he was really cool. And as I said, you know, now I just consider all of them really good friends. And obviously he's one of the most amazing drummers.
Sure.
Just even just as a fan of the band, which I still am, just to be able to watch him do his thing, you know, and I get to do it 6 feet away now.
Yeah.
6 miles away in a bloody stadium or whatever. So just to be able to watch him play is incredible.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's, and we've all been there. We've all worked in these situations where, you know, whether you're working for somebody or with somebody, that you run into people that, how can I say it? It's not, man, I'm having such a hard time talking. I haven't even hit the lottery for my birthday, but no, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it's so refreshing when you're working with people that make it easy to work with them. And that's what professionals do. They make it easy no matter who's in the band. Everybody makes it easy to work with one another.
Yeah.
Whereas we've all been in the situation where you're in a certain band or you're playing with certain people. And there's always that one person that just kind of makes everybody kind of uneasy, or, you know, kind of has that, I don't want to say condescending attitude, but just like, you know, hey, you know, that's your part. You figure it the hell out, man. I've got enough to worry about on my stuff over here, sort of thing. And that just kind of derails the whole musicality in a group, even if you're not part of what they're trying to figure out. You know, it just presents a bad vibe. So you said, you know, working with Jimmy, how he was so helpful to you. Yeah. You know, I'm sure that just contributed to you playing better and everybody else playing better.
I mean, just from playing with him for 6 or 7 years now, as I have, you know, I'm such a better bass player than I was, and that's no slight, you know, my dad's drummer I love playing with, but it's just different. And you know, because Jimmy's got a jazz background and his playing is you know, very different to a lot of other drummers, and there are a lot of times where he'll sort of switch time signatures in the middle of songs, so we have to make sure the bass is constant and so that you can just flip back in. And I love it when that happens, because it sort of feels like something's gone wrong, but then you're like, no, it's not.
That's so cool.
He's just doing his thing.
I was gonna say, and like you know, like any good drummer, does he look over to you and go, ha 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 ha?
Yeah, he's like, did you like that one?
I love that. Too funny. Now,
Yeah.
on these bigger stadium tours, are you on in-ears or would?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd never played with I'd never played on in-ears until 2018. So I did the first Pumpkins tour just wearing earplugs and a big wedge in front of me, like pretty old school. But then for 2018, everybody went on in-ears for that arena tour, and then we've just stayed on it ever since. And now when I play with my dad, I play on in-ears as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Once I'd done it, I just couldn't go back to getting blasted.
Yeah.
Because I have a little bit of tinnitus in my left ear as well, and it's really helped with that, which is the main thing, because you only get one pair of ears, don't you?
Yeah,
right. That's
so,
right.
For now, at least.
Yeah, exactly. So
holding on for
that's been like a life-changing thing, getting on the in-ears and figuring it out and enjoying it. Just nice to not get blasted, just to come off stage and not feel like you've been run over by a truck.
Yeah, and that's a lot of guys that don't use in-ears. They, before I started using in-ears, I always assumed it was just so that so I could have louder things in my head and I could hear vocals and this louder, and now like we've all experienced, it's kind of like, no, I'm using in-ears to protect my hearing and have stage volume come down a little bit, and for that reason.
I mean, it's obviously better for your health in terms of your hearing, but also I feel like I can play a lot tighter just because I can hear everything clearer. And it's I mean, the great thing with the Pumpkins is all the amps are in ISO cabs off the stage, so what you're hearing, there's nothing's bleeding into something else.
That's great.
Crisp and feels like you're sort of listening to an album sometimes.
Sure. And that's it helps front of house out as well. I'm sure
they love it as well. Yeah. So, and because it gives them more scope to work things out at their end as well.
Sure.
Nothing's fighting anything else. So yeah.
David's asking, do you now get recognized on the street?
No, nowhere near that level of fame just yet. But I like it though, because I mean, it's good. I mean, obviously, the hardcore Pumpkins fans know who I am and probably would recognize me, but I can walk out front at a Pumpkins gig and just sort of see what the vibe's like and sit on at the back and watch Noel Gallagher open for us, which I did on the last tour, and nobody bugs you. So it's nice. It's actually nice not having that level of people knowing who you are, so you can just sort of blend in and enjoy the show sometimes. Yeah.
Or go on a bike ride with your dad.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he gets recognized all the time. He was saying one of the benefits of COVID for him has been wearing his mask and his hat. Nobody can stop him in the middle of Manchester and ask him about what it was like recording Unknown Pleasures.
Right.
I mean, he loves stopping and chatting to people. I'm not saying he doesn't love it, but I think he's sometimes it can get a bit full on, especially when he's walking around like Manchester City Centre. So he's not minded really sort of being able to blend in with the crowd a bit more. Yeah, especially when a 30-minute drive to the grocery store turns into 2 hours because somebody stopped you at produce. Oh man, it'd be at some point. Obviously, we'd love to have Peter on, and Jack, you're always welcome here as well. Thank you.
Back on. We've had actually a couple of SVT time veterans come back on the show, and things change. You go back out on tour, or you're starting a new project, or whatever the circumstances may be.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, as I said, next time I see my dad, I'll try and get a date for you where he can come on and do it. Because I think you'd enjoy it. Yesterday we did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit with my dad.
Okay.
And he was kind of hesitant to do it. It's like I'm not going to enjoy this, whatever. And then in the end, he actually enjoyed it way more than a regular interview, just because it was different, getting direct questions from actual fans rather than journalists who sort of researched you a bit and then asked you some questions. So he actually ended up really enjoying it. And so sometimes when you mention and it's some sort of new interview that you've got for him. He'll pull his face a little bit, and then when he gets there, he ends up enjoying it. So I think
well, that's just it. You know, when you're answering questions from people that are genuinely interested, versus people that are just asking questions for the sake of asking questions, you know, then it becomes a conversation. And honestly, if he's more comfortable coming on and having you on as well, we'll do it. All four of us have a conversation.
Yeah, I'll ask him and see what he fancies. But I'm sure we'll be able to get him on for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. Well, I think I know you've got a football game to get to, so I won't keep you too much longer here.
Yeah, Manchester United are playing Burnley tonight.
Nice.
I think it's just kicked off, so I'll be going to make a fresh cup of tea and then watching that for the next hour and a half.
There you go.
Hoping we're not as bad as we were the last game.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 p.m. in Manchester right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we won't hold you here, but no more questions here coming up. So, man, another great SVT time, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure having you, man. This has been awesome talking with you.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed it. Thanks for reaching out and asking us on. It's been nice to virtually meet you, and hopefully I'll meet you both on my dad's American tour this summer.
That would be awesome. I
think we're definitely coming to Boston. I think we're playing at the Paradise in Boston.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you're in California, Dom, right?
Yeah, in LA.
Right, yeah. I think we're playing 2 shows at the Ace Hotel there. So,
awesome. I love the Ace Hotel.
And just give us a shout.
Yeah,
we'll do. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll treat you to if you come into Boston, I'll treat you guys to some good seafood too. If you're into
that. Nice. Yeah.
We'll get some lobster.
My dad's a big fan of crab and lobster and stuff like that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much, Jack. Everybody tuning in. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, man. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
And another happy birthday to Dino.
Of course. I hope you have a lovely evening.
Yeah, this is my third 35th birthday, so we'll call it.
There you
go. Guys, thanks so much. And 2 weeks. Actually, I don't have a guest lined up for in 2 more weeks. So if anybody has any suggestions on who you want to see, by all means, type those in the comments too, because we'll see.
Maybe that's the one we can try and get my dad for if you're stuck.
There you go. There you go. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Yeah.
Later.